Bungie has found themselves in a very strange place with Marathon. So when it was first in alpha, it was a little disappointing to people. It didn't hit the way that Bungie had hoped. And then, perhaps more consequently to it coming out on the original schedule and its reputation, certainly, they were caught stealing art from an artist. That has been resolved. The artist has been paid and says they're happy with the terms that they came to terms with. But with all that said, we are getting Marathon sooner than later on March 4th. And over the weekend, they did a server slam. So let's head over to Eurogamer and Connor Makar, who says Marathon server slam surged Steam with nearly 150,000 concurrent players day one, and that's not counting console participation. Marathon server slam kicked off yesterday and attracted a healthy number of players on Steam. In the past 24 hours, the game brought in a peak of 143,621 concurrent players only on PC platform. The Marathon Server Slam, the final public beta for Bungie's sci-fi extraction shooter ahead of its launch on the 5th of March, is free to download and try out for anyone interested in the game. It's available on Steam as well as PlayStation and Xbox. As such, while these early figures are impressive, they remain just a slice of the Slam's full popularity. For context, Arc Raiders' final public beta test also broke above 100,000 concurrent peak milestone soon after its release. It reached an all-time peak of 189,668. So for those keeping track of the numbers as an indicator of launch success, the hope is that Marathon can stack an extra 40 or so over the weekend. Indeed, it's hard not to compare the two games. Arc Raiders, while certainly not the first extraction shooter to make a big splash, certainly brought the subgenre into the spotlight since its launch last year. It has proven exceptionally popular and arguably opened the door for other extraction shooters to tap into that engaged audience. Marathon, which has by no means had a hurdle-free development cycle, may be able to emulate a similar success. In terms of very early community reception, things appear to be a positive. Typically, Bungie gameplay is quality and is present, and the aesthetic, while off-putting for some, has enraptured others. Best to keep an eye on the game over the weekend and jump in yourself to see what all the fuss is about if you're so inclined. The Server Slam ends on the 2nd of March. So, I'll head over to Paul Tassi, who's very much on Twitter this weekend, not feeling too confident in Marathon because the numbers started to go down. So here's his, wrap up. Was Marathon Server Slam a success or failure? Writer Paul Tassi. We're headed into Sunday night, the last evening that players can drop into Tau Cente for Marathon runs after Server Slam launched. The numbers are in, impressions have been formed, and I want to take a step back and analyze everything we've seen, from data to vibes, and what that may mean heading into next week's actual launch. Revenue. From what I can tell, Marathon seems like it may be a game that skews more toward a PC player population than console, though that remains to be officially seen. Marathon managed to crawl up to number 3 in pre-sales on Steam in the US before the Server Slam even started. It did drop a decent way for a time after the event launched, but looking now on Sunday at the tail end of this, it's back to being number 4, behind only smash hit Resident Evil Requiem, Counter-Strike 2, and its rival Arc Raiders. That's a solid result. Player count. The topped out at 143,000 concurrents, lower than Arc's 190,000 open alpha numbers, which is not a great shock. It did shed players rapidly, however, losing 40% by day 2 and going down each day since to end at a bit lower than half its peak near the end here. I think it's due to 2 main reasons, one being bounce, as players tried it, didn't like it, and moved on. The other thing to consider is that we are less than a week away from launch, and even those who are liking it don't want to sink a bunch more time into the game that's about to erase all of its faction progress and loot. I think the former reason is more prevalent than the latter. Streamers. I'd argue this is split between 2 groups, one being the big shooter streamers and those closer to the Bungie circle. A huge number of big streamers did play Marathon and racked up hundreds of thousands of concurrent Twitch views that first day or so, but by the end, few decided to stick with it for the weekend, and some vocally stated their disdain for it, even after giving it a pretty lengthy go. The Burnt Peanut, the biggest shooter streamer at the moment, did chastise people for immediately jumping on the hate bandwagon, but he too went back to Arc Raiders after not that long. I think it's going to be a tough sell to convert these heavy hitters and their audiences to Marathon for the long term, which, yes, like it or not, can influence sales and interest. However, the other group of streamers that I'm more familiar with, the Destiny guys, have almost all really embraced Marathon. Loads have stuck with the game all weekend, and it very much seems like it's going to be their next main title for launch. After launch, it is hard to understate just how fully dead Destiny 2 is at the moment, with zero new content, so this is not a huge surprise, but this does track with what I predicted. The Bungie fans would embrace this, and I'm seeing the PvP folks, long starved of Destiny content, go the hardest out of anyone here. Players. It's a range, and things have shifted over the course of the weekend. The Server Slam launch did not spawn a big wave, actually. I love this game, among most players posting about it. It was clear that many hit the bounce phase quickly after finding the game unfun or exhausted by its UI or their eyes hurting from its bright colors. By the end of the weekend, most of the complainers were just aren't playing anymore, and those that have stuck around who are largely positive about it, I'm seeing more and more fun clips of wacky PvE or intense PvP encounters and a general sentiment of the more I stuck with it, the more I liked it, as it started to click with many people. Conversion. This is the biggest question, one that we don't have an answer to, but I'm at least a little concerned. This does not strike me as a game that's about to have an Arc Raiders moment where its launch player count surges way beyond what its free test showed. Losing half its players in a day does not tell me that it's going to stay at that original peak for a paid conversion, and asking $40 up from free is tough to sell. That said, it has remained a top seller on at least one platform, so that's an indicator that it could work out better than it might otherwise. The mystery here is that what Sony and Bungie are trying to hit. Say 2/3 of the Server Slam people show up and pay. Is that good? Will the game add or drop players a week or a month out from now? What would be the word of mouth? Can Marathon be a hit if it's condensed down to something like a consistent 200,000 concurrent player or 20,000 concurrent players? 200,000 would be great, but no. I doubt that's a win. 50,000, 100,000. Those numbers really do skew that high for milestones from this weekend. I am not convinced you can get to that level and sustain it based on what I've seen so far. Perhaps additional content will be a big boost. Much of that on the ship raid is going to be for the top tier players alone. I think this weekend went perhaps a touch better than expected, but I also don't think it has shown us a hurricane of a hit about to slam into the market. I don't think Arc Raiders needed to be the measuring stick, a really unfair high water mark to demand, but it does need to put some minimums and maintain them. I'm a little unsure whether goals will be met, though no, we are not talking about anything like Concord or Highguard shutdown situation here. Absolutely not. Well, probably not. So I think that's a really good point. I think one of the things for somebody like me who's not a huge Extraction fan, but did enjoy Arc Raiders, I don't see myself buying another Extraction shooter anytime soon. If I will have the itch to play an Extraction shooter, I'll just fire up Arc Raiders, jump in for a few runs, and then get out. I don't need to spend $40 on another game like Arc Raiders in Marathon, and I think that's going to be the biggest hurdle for it to overcome. But did you try out the Server Slam this weekend? If so, what did you think? Did you enjoy it? Or are you one of those people who played for a bit and bounced off? I would love to hear from you, so let me know in the comments. Also, if you enjoyed this video, please subscribe. I'm trying to get to 100 subscribers. Not the biggest goal in the world, but one that we've yet to achieve thus far here on the channel. So please subscribe and check out the channel for new videos and shorts all the time. If you want more, check out our main channel, Wicked Everything, where we do video game reviews and video essays, and our sports channel, Wicked Sports, where we do sports news. And finally, our podcasting channel, Better Radio, which hosts all of our podcasts right now, covering Survivor 50. So go check that out. Again, thank you so much for checking this one out, and I will see you in the next one.